right? They'll call me the greatest of all time.
It has been nearly 60 years since the then 22-year-old boxing phenom Muhammad Ali flexed his victory over the favorite Sonny Liston, dubbing himself the greatest of all time. 60 years later, the term GOAT has become ingrained in the cultural consciousness. So much so that conversations concerning who is the greatest in relation to just about anything are pretty much inescapable. These commonly passion-fueled debates often invade the likes of social media platforms, office settings, street corners, barbershops, and even national broadcasts. But as much as we'd love to, we're not here to get in a shouting match in defense of our GOATs. Instead, we would like you all to join us on a journey of discovery to explore the science of greatness, specifically what characteristics GOAT consists of. This is GOAT Decoded. Now, the science of greatness may come off a bit pretentious, but I promise that this exercise will not remind you of your 7th grade chemistry teacher who thought rocking his pants above the navel was a good look. The science of greatness refers to a systematic study of greatness based on evidence. And to help us navigate our in-depth analysis of great ones, we have created a criteria that can be universally applicable regardless of the discipline these individuals excel in. These 10 attributes will be evaluated on a scale of 1 to 10 to combine for an aggregate score of 100 at the conclusion of each case study. Attribute 1, ability. Ability generally refers to talent, skill, or proficiency in an area. But I mean, we all possess the means or skill to do something, or I would at least hope so. But what makes the GOATs different? How are they able to perform at what would appear to be superhuman levels? Well, the formula is actually quite simple. Ability equals talent heightened by the circumstances that breed said talent, multiplied by persistence and effort to transform it into an ability. It starts with recognizing one's strengths, what someone might be capable of, what might provide them with a level of catharsis. Then the circumstances that enable an individual to utilize those strengths come into play. Their proximity to resources and systems that allow them to maximize their capabilities. These external factors can take on many forms, whether educational, organizational, or experiential. But all of the talent and support in the world can be completely nullified with a lack of effort. You gotta put the work in. The GOATs understand that natural talent can only take an individual but so far. Improvement requires persistent effort, and it cannot be considered ability unless it can be called upon with consistency. Attribute 2, ambition. Ambition can be defined as a strong desire for an individual to achieve their respective goals. And shout out to Webster, but ambition is made up of a lot more than just a heavy portion of desire. Ambition requires a sum of vision and focus compounded with a sum of sacrifice and tenacity. Vision is an integral component of ambition. It starts with a desire to achieve a goal, yes, but one must envision a route to that desired destination. That visualization must then be amplified by a degree of focus. No route is void of traffic, collisions, and detours along the way. Focus is absolutely essential to seeing one's vision come into fruition. And through navigating those two elements, sacrifices also need to be made. Many of the GOATs that will be explored in Season 1 had to sacrifice time, finances, rest, and leisure in order to achieve greatness. How much one is willing to sacrifice is a critical aspect of determining their level of ambition. But there's no telling if the sacrifices will even be worth it in the end, right? Finally, that's where tenacity comes in. A strong sense of determination and mental perseverance debunks the notion that a sacrifice can even be thought of as meritless. Ability is an attribute that can be seen, but ambition can most definitely be felt. Attribute 3, intelligence. Intelligence, otherwise understood as the capacity to acquire and apply knowledge in relation to context. Context is extremely important to acknowledge here, because for one, there are multiple types of intelligence that exist, including but not limited to linguistic, logical, interpersonal, emotional, and kinesthetic. And it is safe to say that not every GOAT is going to be a clone of Neil deGrasse Tyson, hence why the intelligence described here is intended to be a bit more general. The intelligence formula is a sum of the ability to think, to learn experientially, to solve problems, and to adapt to new circumstances. Those who possess high intellect are capable of formulating a strategy in the heat of battle, They are able to learn from a loss, analyze where they may have gone wrong, and apply it when the opportunity presents itself again. They prove that they can make adjustments when necessary to acclimate themselves to new environments. A GOAT's physical advantages may deteriorate as time progresses, but their intelligence can keep them competitive long past their respective primes. Attribute 4, creativity. Creativity is similar to intelligence as it pertains to generating ideas, problem solving, and communicating with others. But one major ingredient dignifies it as an important attribute that stands on its own, and that is imagination. Heralded mathematician Ruth Noller indicated that creativity is generated by the interaction between knowledge, imagination, and evaluation. Intelligent individuals often demonstrate the ability to acquire knowledge and are capable of evaluating the pros and cons of an idea, but can definitely lack the imagination to captivate an audience. The GOATs understand that a strong belief in what others may not always be capable of seeing, hearing, or feeling is critical to achieving greatness. Being able to do the unexpected often demands creativity. Attribute 5, resilience. Resilience can be defined as an individual's unwavering confidence in the face of risks and adversity. Now, it may be reminiscent of ambition in some ways, especially as it pertains to mental toughness and adapting to adverse circumstances. But resilience is not just relegated to adapting to what obstacles may arise. A resilient individual is actually actively placing themselves in challenging positions, accepting the pain and suffering that comes with it, and understanding it as a special opportunity to grow. Y'all know the old saying, no pain, no gain. Resilience equals determination magnified by toughness, divided by the pain an individual is willing to endure. The GOATs understand that the road to greatness can be quite grueling, and simply waiting for obstacles to arise may not adequately prepare them for what lies ahead. Creating challenges of their own is a more proactive approach to developing a resistance to problems that will present themselves along the path to greatness. Attribute 6, integrity. Now, this is what may separate the way we evaluate greatness here at G.O.A.T. Decoded from others. Greatness is typically viewed through a Western lens that is heavily influenced by a capitalist ideology, which emphasizes the individual. This economic system undeniably has its social and cultural ramifications, resulting in many championing individual success without acknowledging the flawed methods that may have been utilized to achieve it. This is why we decided to add integrity to the criteria for greatness. Integrity is defined as an individual's ability to adhere to their own ethical standards. Integrity equals the sum of honesty and kind intention multiplied by a combination of responsibility and courage. The real GOATs are exactly who they say they are, and understand that the intention to impact others positively provides their journey on the path of greatness with purpose. They understand that they have a responsibility to uphold their morals and ethical standards and would not sacrifice that in efforts to achieve perceived greatness. The real GOATs demonstrate the courage to speak for those who may not be able to speak for themselves. The greats are natural leaders. Leadership requires an individual to possess good judgment as it pertains to decision making. And without a consistent ethical standard, it would be difficult to trust that the individual will possess good judgment in the first place. Attribute 7, humility. Humility is another atypical addition to what some may perceive to be instrumental to the criteria of greatness. Humility is defined as an individual's ability to recognize their shortcomings and limitations and demonstrate the openness to learn from others. There is some discourse out there of late that may lead one to believe that humility has a negative connotation attached to it, that it is somehow predicated on dimming one's light to acquiesce to a status quo. That could not be further from the truth. Let's play a game called Name a GOAT. Go ahead, name a GOAT who was uncoachable. Name a GOAT who did not have the help of others on their route to greatness. Name a GOAT who was unable to identify their strengths and limitations and did not learn how to navigate those limitations accordingly. You will be hard-pressed trying to think of any names that fit the bill. Humility is the sum of 4 parts: accurate self-awareness, appreciation of others, openness to feedback, and transcendence in perspective. Knowing what you are and are not capable of is important. Valuing those who play a vital role in contributing to your success is equally important, because simply put, there are no success stories without the support of others. Being open to criticism, And feedback from those that have the expertise can be instrumental to one's development and transforming all of that into powerful insight that can propel the individual into the stratosphere of greatness. Humility is a critical component to the formula of greatness, just like any of the aforementioned attributes. Attribute 8, empathy. Empathy is the ability to sense the emotions of others and be able to imagine what they could be feeling. One cannot lead effectively without being empathetic to those who play a role in their success. In order to maximize the abilities and talents of others, a GOAT must intimately understand their teammates, subordinates, or partners' emotional state. What triggers them and what may cause them to underperform. What motivates them to put in an extra effort. These nuances of an individual cannot be deciphered without empathy. Empathy can be broken down into 3 components: emotional empathy, cognitive empathy, and compassionate empathy. Cognitive empathy refers to the ability to deduce how someone may be thinking or feeling. One identifier could be their physical appearance as a means to determine if they could potentially be experiencing a level of fatigue or stress. Another identifier could be subtle differences in their vocal tone or figures of speech that they may decide to utilize. Recognizing these mannerisms and being able to associate feelings with them is a vital first layer to being empathetic. The second layer is emotional empathy, which is the capacity to feel the emotions of another, requiring an individual to be in tune with their own emotions. When both cognitive and emotional empathy coalesce, compassion can then be enacted. Compassion is rooted in action. Actions can come into form of something as simple as a hug or a nice gesture such as a gift. Empathy is equally as valuable to someone who aspires for greatness as any of the other attributes. Being able to think, feel, and act to strengthen others typically results in establishing trust. And in turn, if others feel like they can rely on you, then in most cases you will be able to rely on them as well. Attribute 9, longevity. Longevity is how long an individual is able to maintain a high level of productivity. In fact, an unnamed specimen, who we may end up including in an upcoming episode, and by may I mean more than likely will, still remains one of the best in his field in year 20. He is practically the poster child for the term longevity. The formula for longevity is output multiplied by time. Despite longevity being the most simplistic attribute to understand, it may very well be the most difficult to achieve. There is a certain vigor in combination with their ability that one possesses in their youth that naturally begins to decline as Father Time rears his head. But the ones that employ the aforementioned attributes like creativity, intelligence, and resilience are able to find ways to produce despite the decline. Longevity and evolutionary wisdom often have a symbiotic relationship, where one learns experientially how to preserve themselves, how to master deficiencies, and many times how to adapt to new roles. Plenty of people can demonstrate greatness in a small sample size, but few figure out how to extend it for long periods of time. Attribute 10, impact. To have impact is to have an identifiable effect on others. Probably the most defining characteristic of greatness. How does one affect the heart, mind, and soul of others? Did they leave behind a blueprint for others to follow? Did they improve on the design? Did they do something new? These are all valid questions in calculating the depth of impact an individual may have on the masses. The impact formula consists of 3 components: power, relatability, and quantity of individuals one is able to affect. That completes the criteria that will stand as a paradigm for assessing greatness. We hope that in our evaluation of the GOATs, you as a listener can extract information that serves to realize your own greatness. Stay tuned for Season 1 of G.O.A.T. Decoded.
It's funny because in my younger years, despite my early successes, I vividly remember this troublesome feeling. Some call it imposter syndrome, or just knowing deep down that I had more to offer the world. I would often become overwhelmed by the social pressure, tears at times flowing down my face, and I would just say to myself, I just want to be great.